This is your Enhancement Talent review for WWE Monday Night Raw, August 19th, 2019. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you for joining me on, an overall, pretty solid Raw show, I thought. There was definitely a lot to talk about, good and bad, and that's really what I hope for. It's just that there's things that are interesting to talk about, whether I agree or disagree with them. There were a lot of things that we can dive into here, and there were a few things I didn't like. The championship change at the end, we'll get into that, and how the tag team division was sacrificed for Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman. I wish that the show was more centric on the King of the Ring matches. I would have liked this show better if they just did all 4 of the first round matches and maybe cut out some of the other stuff. But that's a nitpick thing. And other than that, there was a lot of stuff to like on this show. But we will go through everything seg by seg, starting with Roman Reigns, the big dog, as Michael Cole will inform us until the day that he dies in that chair. Roman starts off. This is where we find out that Jerry Lawler is in the place of Corey Graves, who I guess is somewhere else. I forget what they even said, but we get another recap of this Roman Reigns storyline with Daniel Bryan stuff and everything before that with the car and the scaffolding and the forklift. This is like the 6th time I've seen this video package, except this time it just has the ending of SmackDown at the end. So I'm just kind of tired of seeing this freaking video package, but nonetheless, Roman comes to the ring. And out comes Dolph Ziggler, as we're supposed to start off with a match here on Raw. A very odd occurrence. But Dolph comes out. He cuts a promo on Reigns. And basically just it was built up on Twitter, the whole thing, that Ziggler was mocking Reigns' near calamities and talking about how terrible things actually have happened to Dolph. So, it should be him that we're talking about. But, because it's Roman Reigns is why we're talking about what's happening with him. But Dolph goes on this whole long diatribe, which was all just set up to distract Roman so he could hit a super kick on him. And then the match would later start when Roman gets his wits about him, and the referee asks him if he's okay. Roman, of course, is going to fight. And then right away, go right into back and forth sort of stuff. But then the transition here was so weird because they're on the outside. And Ziggler hits a zigzag on the floor. And it goes straight to commercial with both of them on the ground. The zigzag is now just a transitional move. You couldn't have done anything else other than the dude's one of his finishers. So, come back to Ziggler working over Roman. Ziggler gets a quote-unquote near fall with the same zigzag that he just hit on the outside of the ring, now inside the ring, but Roman kicks out. So he took 2 of them, one of them on the floor, and kicked out of the second one. But Dolph gets backed off of Reigns in the corner. He has later in the match. He has him in the corner. Ref counts, backs him up, and then Dolph runs and jumps at Roman and is met in midair with a spear, which was it was like the Christian cell of Goldberg's spear. It was nice, but I've seen some people giving this match a lot of praise. I didn't care for it a ton. It was good, I mean, Dolph Ziggler and Roman Reigns, like, the action was fine, but I just thought it was, I don't know, that zigzag on the floor spot just really bothered me for some reason. Just how it was used as a transitional spot just to go to commercial. Like, he couldn't have used anything else. But, what are you going to do? It was a fun match. It was nowhere near, in my opinion, it was nowhere near as good as the Roman Reigns and Buddy Murphy match on Tuesday. But nonetheless, they're letting Roman just go out and have matches, which, is the best thing that you can do for Roman, is just let him work. And, they have the whole drama story angle behind him, but they're letting him actually, back up everything in the ring, which lets us, just appreciate him more than what we would if it was just, the angles or him squashing any match he's in. So it's good that, they're giving Roman the chance to work matches because, hot take, he's a great professional wrestler, not a performance fighter, as he would tell you, but a professional wrestler. He is pretty good at that. We get a recap of the video of Sasha's heel turn last week. I noted that there was no Corey Graves commentary included, which obviously the last week in the live version, Corey Graves was just going absolutely incensed, making it all about him and how he was right about Sasha all along. But they cut all that stuff out and just had the Michael Cole, oh, could it be? It is! It's boss time! Yeah. So good we needed to hear it a second time. I'm surprised he didn't say that when he interviewed her later, but we'll get to that. Becky Lynch backstage cuts an excellent promo on Sasha Banks. Like, I loved this Becky Lynch, and I've been missing this Becky Lynch. She goes on this whole tangent about how Sasha, well, first she says that she calls people out, as she did with Sasha over SummerSlam weekend. She called her a quitter and said if she ever wanted to come back, then she'd beat her, but whatever. But, she says that a lot of people say it's not smart for her to call people out like that, but Becky says that the reason that she calls people out and does the promos on people that she does with the Ronda Rouseys and the Sashas and the Charlotte is because she wants to face the best version of them, so that when she beats them, there can be no doubt who the man is. Just tears into Banks. The great line, like, I don't have it written down verbatim, but she said that essentially Sasha is the greatest superstar to never be great. And, that resonates because Sasha is, certainly one of the top women in WWE over the past few years, just as far as match quality goes. But she's never, she didn't get into the Becky Lynch role. She didn't get into the Charlotte role. She was kind of the forgotten one. Her and Bayley both, of the Four Horsewomen. And Bayley still, she's the women's champion on SmackDown right now, but I'd still argue that she's still very forgotten. But Sasha, she won the championship 4 times over Charlotte in their back and forth feud, but she always lost it within a couple weeks of winning it. And, that didn't help her at all. And then, she gets the tag titles, and it's the same thing. I think she defended them successfully once with Bayley, but then at WrestleMania, they had to drop them to the Iconics, and that's why Sasha was outie for the last 4 months. And, it was just a great promo by Becky. This is the man that we needed. And, I'm finally, after 3 months of this Lacey Evans garbage that Becky Lynch has been, and Becky had done her best to try to make that Lacey feud good, but Lacey just wasn't at the point where she was ready to compete with someone at the level that Becky was, especially coming off of winning the women's title in the main event of WrestleMania. To go from that to Lacey Evans is a major come down. And so now, 4 months later, we are finally getting the man that we needed. And, when we get Sasha and Becky in a ring together, just have a back and forth promo, that's going to be fantastic, I imagine. They're just going to rip each other to shreds verbally, which I'm definitely looking forward to. So now, as advertised going into this Raw, I don't know when they announced it, I think earlier today, was that Jerry Lawler is going to hold a King's Court with Sasha Banks so she can explain her actions against Natalya and Becky Lynch. And so Jerry, he gets in the ring, and he goes on and on and on about the freaking King of the Ring. And giving his predictions and looking at the bracket and talking about what it means and how prestigious it is. How prestigious it is. It's not the King of the Ring tournament. You can't actually call it that. Just like Crown Jewel, they had, what was it, the WWE World Cup to determine the best in the world. Now this is the prestigious King of the Ring tournament. That's its full name. So Jerry goes on and on and on about shit that no one could possibly care about because it's not what we were told that we were going to see. And so he goes on and on until eventually the lights start to go off. And we know what that means. And I'm going to say that Lawler's acting was goofy, but it was well intended because it was funny goofy, not like cringy goofy. Because, the lights start to go off and Lawler's just like, oh, I've seen this before. And, he drops the mic and starts walking away. But, the lights gradually go out more. And then the visual, the presentation of this just made me laugh. Because it was like proper bad horror movie. Like bad in a good way, where, where it's like, why aren't you guys running away? That sort of bad, like just laugh at it bad. So Lawler, and you can see it through like the flickering lights that come on in the spotlight, Lawler stops at the ramp and looks back at the ring. But appearing behind him is the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. And, Lawler turns around, they meet eyes, and, all it was missing was a good, like, screech from Lawler. Like, throwing his hands up in the air like a little girl or something. But Bray puts in the mandible claw on old Jerry and takes him out of action. I want to propose this, though, and I'm interested in the meaning behind it. Because now the Fiend, part of his character has become that, he attacks the legends when they come to Raw. It started with Mick Foley. He put him away with the mandible claw, which, at the time I just attributed that to passing down the move. But then, they did it with Kurt Angle, and now they did it with Jerry Lawler. And so I'm interested, like, what is the Fiend's character motivation behind wanting to take out the legends? Because it seems like something like the Fiend wouldn't specifically target legends, at least in my estimation of what the character has been built up as to this point. But, other than Finn Balor, everyone that he's attacked has been a legend. And, it could be, and it could be a less interesting answer than any character motivation. It could just be because they want to give him someone or someones that he can appear against, he can do his finish against, and do all the spooky stuff, and not have to carry on a feud with them afterwards. That way he just is able to do the one thing. It's kind of like squash matches, except in this, you use the squash matches against jobbers, enhancement talent, for to help get someone's moveset over, to help get their stuff in people's minds. So maybe this is like the equivalent of that, where Bray is going to beat on people that, they can't come back. And they'll do that until they're ready to do something else with him in terms of like an actual program. So maybe it's as simple as that, but I'm interested. Like, does the Fiend have some sort of infatuation with wanting to put down the old legends? I'd be interested if they did like a Firefly Funhouse soon, and maybe we could have the Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt sort of allude to that in a way. I'd be interested in hearing that. So Vic Joseph is going to take over commentary for the King after this. So we were spared 3 hours of Jerry Lawler commentary, but Vic was absolutely fantastic. He did this thing, like it's a weird concept, but like he called the things that were going on inside the ring. What? That's not how you do commentary. Who does this guy think he is? But I really liked Vic, and it was strange because really Vic was the play-by-play guy. Michael Cole sort of, for most of the night, took a step back into more of a color role with him and Renee. And it was really Vic that I thought was calling a lot of the action throughout the night. And, recently there was another thing where, it was rumored that Michael Cole is going to want to step away from commentary at some point and just focus on a backstage role. But, that's been rumored for years, I feel like. But, if that is the case, they have someone there with Vic Joseph that I think that they can really groom him into the Michael Cole role and have him be the play-by-play guy on Raw. I think he's a perfect man for the job. And, I would enjoy it, and I would assume that he would be less annoying than Michael Cole. Which, nothing personal against Michael Cole. I think Michael, when Michael Cole is left to his own devices, I think he can be a very good commentator. And, you can look back at, like, the 2000 SmackDown, him and Taz were a great team. Or even when he's been in like the NXT UK tournament, when it's a less produced, more just focus on the wrestling environment. Michael Cole does a really good job. It just comes down to wanting to please the Mad Irishmen, as they say. After this, we got a tag team match with all of the 4 participants from the Raw side of the King of the Ring that were not given matches tonight. So that would be Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin. Remember when they were a team forever? It never goes away. It never goes away. Drew is going to be shackled to Corbin's ankle for life. Versus Ricochet and The Miz. There was one funny moment I noted early when Corbin does his whole run around the post and come back into the ring thing. that Cole puts over, like, oh, what an athlete Baron Corbin is, and Renee just says, he just ran around the ring, Cole. It's not that hard. I found that funny. Finish, though, I did not care for, because the baby faces in Miz and Ricochet cheated to win. Ricochet is in the corner. Corbin is running at him, shoulder first. Miz pulls Ricochet out of the way. Corbin gets posted, shoulder first. Ricochet hits the recoil, which is a code breaker, essentially, for the win. I don't know if that's the first time he's actually gotten a pin with that move. Normally he goes into the 630 off of that. But, it's good to have multiple things that can put people away. So it is good in the sense that they gave Ricochet a win with the recoil. But what I am going to criticize is that the babyfaces freaking cheated. Were we trying to get sympathy on Baron Corbin? I don't think so. I don't think Baron Corbin would get sympathy if he was burning alive on Raw. Just backwards psychology. And, I get it's what their thought process is, we booked this match, so we have to have a winner, but we want to have these guys win, but we don't want to make these guys look bad, so we'll have them have a fluky finish so that the team that loses doesn't get hurt that much. The guy that takes the pin isn't hurt that much, but it's too convoluted, and it undermines babyface morale. And, I had someone argue with me that what they did wasn't cheating. I mean, I don't see how it's... I mean, I don't have a wrestling rule book in front of me, but I would assume that it is illegal for a tag partner on the outside of the ring to pull his partner away from impending doom. I would assume that's illegal. But either way, whatever way you want to cut it, if it's not technically illegal, it's a heel tactic. We have the return of the Michael Cole Skype interview as he randomly interviews Booker T, talking about King of the Ring. They do some King Booker stuff, and Booker T's pick to win is Drew McIntyre, which is also Renee Young's pick to win, and also Michael Cole's pick to win, and he was my pick to win, but now 3 people have picked him on WWE TV. Excuse me. So I retract my pick. Drew McIntyre is not winning. I'm actually thinking that, and call me an optimist, but I think they're going to go with someone who could really benefit a lot from it. I think that someone like Andrade I could see winning because, excuse me, but, it's mostly heels that win King of the Ring. And I could see Andrade winning it, I could see Ali winning it, and I could see Ricochet winning it if they want to go the babyface route with those two. But my pick is going to be Andrade, especially if he wins the King of the Ring. And, it's been pointed out elsewhere that King in Spanish is Rey. So, he could call himself El Rey Andrade and wear the goofy crown and the scepter and all that. But, nonetheless. Drew McIntyre is not winning now because 3 people on WWE TV have picked him. He's not winning. AJ Styles versus Braun Strowman for the United States Championship match. I was going to say for the United States Championship match. For the United States Championship. AJ versus Braun Strowman. This was set up last week when Braun made the save for Seth Rollins, cleared out the OC, power slammed AJ a few times. And so we get this United States Championship match. I don't know what Braun did to earn a United States Championship match, but nonetheless, um, this match goes less than 5 minutes before Gallows and Anderson interfere and beat down on Braun until Seth runs in. He returns the favor to Braun. He clears the ring. They shake hands, but Strowman holds on to the handshake and, doesn't let go, and they stare down, and then eventually they both leave. This would have been fine if it was not a freaking title match. Why couldn't you just do this same exact thing with AJ Styles versus Braun Strowman in a singles match? Why did it have to be a title match? You're diluting, you're conditioning your audience to not care about title matches because they're gonna have a freaking screwy finish. Even though the one that we're gonna talk about later didn't have a screwy finish, but this one did, and that's my point. Is that when you make a championship match, there should be more thought behind it, because now by the end of this show, and presumably in the next month, Braun Strowman will have had a shot at the United States Championship. He will have had a shot at the Tag Team Championships, and he would have had a shot at the Universal Championship if that is indeed the match they're going to do at Clash of Champions. And so it makes the United States title feel like such a thing on the back burner that, Braun got screwed out of having a fair match with AJ, but he's just not going to care because there's all those other championships that he's just going to get a shot for right away. Yeah, screw that. I don't like that. I don't like that they're diluting their championship's value by having this nonsense. You could have done the same exact thing without making it a non-title match, but you're a bunch of greedy bastards that you want to put on the card for Raw. United States Championship match, AJ Styles versus Braun Strowman. You gotta watch this. It's gonna be huge. And then you bait and switch them, really, because you'll give them a championship match later, but it's not what someone might have tuned in to see. And then if somebody was, I don't know why anyone would be this gullible at this point, because WWE has a track record of doing this, of promising something and not delivering. But why would you even book a championship match just to pull the rug out from everyone and then do what you did later? I just don't get it. All right, now that that's over, we will move on. Seth confronts Braun Strowman in the back, says if it were up to him, this was like golly gee Seth right here. Like they're trying so damn hard to make him likable, but golly gee Braun, if it were up to me, you would definitely be my next opponent for the Universal Championship match. But you just know, that's not my decision, But tonight, I want to face Gallows and Anderson, and I want you to team with me, and we can be the Raw Tag Team Champions. How do you feel about that? Golly gee whiz, Braun. I sure would love for you to be my partner. I'm sorry. So Seth says that he's going to request the match with Braun and Seth as challenging Gallows and Anderson for the Tag Team Championships. And that would happen in the main events of the nights. I apologize for that Seth Rollins impersonation. I'm sorry. We have Joe versus Cesaro, Samoa Joe, that is. The first match of the King of the Ring tournament. This was maybe the best match on the show. Joe and Cesaro just beat the piss out of each other. It started with the bang. Right as the bell rang, Cesaro runs straight at Joe and hits him with the running European uppercut. Joe sold this properly, like he was knocked unconscious. Just the way he fell to the mat. It was so It felt authentic. And they beat the piss out of each other. Cesaro, I think later, had the big boot, just hitting Joe right in the mush in the face. Good stuff. Cesaro did have the saddest swing of all time when he tried to swing Joe around. I don't know how he was able to do this to the Great Khali, but he couldn't do it with Samoa Joe. He spun him around like once and barely got him off the ground and then went straight into the sharpshooter. Might have just been a thing because he couldn't get him up high enough. It just could have felt like he was risking Joe's head hitting the mat. So, might have just better safe than sorry sort of thing. Yeah, but other than that, Joe ends up winning cleanly with the Coquina Clutch. Joe hasn't had a win in a long time, nor has Cesaro. But Joe beats Cesaro. I'm still not sure what the direction is for Joe, if he's going to be a babyface or a heel or a vigilante of sorts. But he gets the win here. He moves on to the second round. After this, we got some stupidity with the Elias 24/7 Championship. I think for most weeks, like with the R-Truth and Drake Maverick stuff, I'd been saying that, it's mindless entertainment. And, when I watch it, it's mostly funny stuff. I feel like that has worn off now. I definitely feel like the shelf life on this has expired. And I don't know if it's the 24/7 gimmick itself or what they're doing with it. I have no interest at all in Elias in these segments. So, also, here's a thought to ponder. Elias sits in the middle of the ring to play this frickin' song, and nobody comes after him. Nobody except R-Truth in the end. But in every 24/7 champion, there's been the band of geeks that follow them around like a fly to shit and just chase after this guy and try to catch him and roll him up and whatever. But in this case, Elias is sitting in the middle of the ring and nobody cares. Nobody wanted to there was no mob of people. There was just R-Truth in disguise as like a stagehand that was gonna give Elias a new guitar or some shit. And R-Truth is in disguise. He tries to roll up Elias a few times, but Elias kicks out. Weird. I've never seen someone kick out of a roll up in this title scene. But yeah, he kicks out of everything. R-Truth tries to whack him with the guitar, but Elias rolls away and gets away. And that was all we saw of the 24/7 Championship. No one tried to come after Elias except for R-Truth. So that leads me to believe that R-Truth is the only one that still cares about the 24/7 title. Him and Drake Maverick, they did show a earlier in the week, I think, with Drake Maverick trying to win the championship off Elias in a studio. But those are the only two that are left that cares. I mean, shit, if I was one of those geeks that were running around in circles trying to find this guy, I would have given up too by now. What's the point? It's not like it's gonna mean anything. Rey Mysterio is backstage for an interview with Charlie Caruso after last week. Rey had the sort of cryptic ending to the interview where, we weren't sure what the direction he was going to go to. And so I've got to give Rey so much props for this promo because his performance in this promo was phenomenal. Possibly the best promo that Rey Mysterio has ever done. And that's always been the knock on Rey, is that he connects with the kids, the fans like him, but that it's the one trick pony sort of thing. Like, Rey is what he is, He's not going to be a heel or any of that stuff, and he isn't a great talker. But it was shown here that Ray can convey himself in a way, even speaking or otherwise, with his actions, that he can connect with the audience in a way that I don't think a lot of people can. And, this promo was so good because, they were teasing that Ray was going to retire. And, Ray, the line that really drew me in was essentially Ray said, his brain is used, he knows everything that he's supposed to do, and he knows the moves that he's supposed to do, but his body is not responding the same way that it always has. And that rings true to any aging athlete. And it can be football, it can be wrestling, it can be basketball. But there's a point in every great athlete's career when their minds and their will is completely towards and in the habits of doing things the same way it has for as long as they've been an athlete. But then at some point, their body does not respond the same way. And so I thought that gave this promo so much more authenticity because Ray just felt so relatable in that. And you don't have to be an athlete. Like it can just be about aging. Like that's just what happens. Your body doesn't react to things the same way. You can sit on the couch all day, every day, and eventually your body isn't going to react the same way it did earlier in your life. That's just the aging process. But it's more dominant to athletes because their body is their livelihood. It's what they make their money with. And so, Ray's promo there and conveying that message just hit home. And the thing is that even with that line, like you can watch the Rey Mysterio matches now, and he's still doing all the stuff that he was able to do back in his prime for the most part, and even a lot of new stuff that he hasn't done then. But the point is that he's losing, and so it all ties in together. And so you can look at it and say, well, he can still do all that athletic stuff, but he hasn't been able to win. And he lost 3 straight to Andrade. He got squashed by Bobby Lashley upon returning. And he lost in the gauntlet match. I think he did win a couple in the gauntlet match, but nonetheless, the point still remains that it definitely connected with me. And so Bray cutting this emotional promo, and you could feel the emotion in the crowd too, because just by hearing them, it was like a gasp thing when he basically said that he's going to retire, and he says that it's time to hang up the mask, and he goes and he's going to pull the mask off his head, but in comes his son Dominic. And Dominic, now, so this thing, I wanted to love this so much because this was a home run of a segment, but the only flaw is that Dominic, as new to wrestling as he is, and I'm sure he's not used to this sort of thing, his delivery on this promo was not good. And that's just being fair. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't think it was completely like awful, but his delivery of it just wasn't convincing enough. It wasn't heartfelt enough, and it just comes with being able to feel the moments. And I just didn't feel that from Dominic, and that can come with experience. I mean, that's the only way, is with experience. And so, but the content of what Dominic was saying was excellent. It wasn't delivered well, but the content was excellent. Normally, we go in the opposite direction with WWE promos, where the guy's trying to deliver it the best he can, but the content is just so terrible that it just sounds stupid. In this case, it was the opposite. The content of this promo was very good. The delivery sucked. And so Dominic talks about how Ray promised him that he would be able to tag with his son in his debut, and and that he wants to be able to tell his children about how he teamed with their grandfather and Ray, and that leads to them embracing. They hug, and Dominic says that he's gonna make his father proud. And that was the segment. Just one of the I struggle to think of another better Rey Mysterio promo. And everything about this, other than the Dominic delivery, was excellent. We had New Day versus the Revival, and this was set up on Tuesday last week. The Revival pins Xavier Woods, and that started the whole. Well, they pinned the champion. That means they're going to get a championship match, even though they're a Raw tag team. So the Revival versus New Day non-title match ends up with Randy Orton coming in out of nowhere and RKOing everyone out of nowhere. All three of them, they beat down Woods and Big E. Kofi comes in, tries to do the save. He does come in and he does the super athletic roll into the ring, and it might sound familiar. It's where he runs down the ramp and he jumps over the bottom rope and does a roll through into the ring. And the reason I remember this is because of the famous CM Punk interview, where Punk said in the 2014 Royal Rumble that spot where Kofi rolls in and then gives Punk a clothesline is what concussed him. And those two are good friends, and Punk didn't blame him at all for it. In fact, Punk was in the Kofi 24 documentary on WWE Network, in fact. But the numbers advantage takes over. Kofi gets taken out. He gets hit by what I'm going to call the Shatterma RKO. And, then the Revival do a devastating jump onto Woods' leg. One of them holds him down as the other one jumps off the top rope, which Woods sold like he was going to need an amputation in his leg. You would have thought that he got shot in the kneecap by the way he sold this. And they were forcing Kofi to watch it on the ground and just sadistic sort of stuff. And I gotta give Woods so much credit for the way he sold that, the realism of it, and just I always loved Woods. I always sing his praises as one of the best sellers in WWE today, and he continues that. FTR now forever the RKO. Revival get their wish after teaming with Orton on SmackDown. They get to form a faction with some legacy vibes. The Revival are a more accomplished team than Cody and DiBiase Jr. were. And, the goal wouldn't it be in this case to really get them over as much as they're there to fill the role. I don't know if I want it to be like as dominant as the original Legacy was with how big Orton was at that time. But definitely interested in to see what they do going forward. I think that it's a probability that it's definitely possible, at least, that Orton will end up beating Kofi for the title with the help of this faction. We'll see where all that goes. After that, we had a Sasha Banks interview with Michael Cole now. And, Sasha, when she's asked to explain her actions, she says that, I looked in the mirror last week and realized that blue is my color. And Cole then asks again more sternly. He says, with all due respect, no one cares about your blue hair, Sasha. I'm here to tell you that you are wrong, Michael Cole, and, maybe you're too busy figuring out how to use Skype to realize how many people did care about Sasha's blue hair. Cole asked her to explain again. Sasha just says, "You're welcome," and walks off. Of course, last week the crowd chanted, "Thank you, Sasha." This week, Sasha says, "You're welcome." Love it when my heels are nice and courteous. But love this from Sasha. I thought I liked that it didn't give everything away and left intrigue in her motives. I always hate when someone turns heel and then the next week, they give a whole detailed reason as to why they did it. Like, oh, I did this because of this and this and that and the third, and Natty did this, and I don't like the way the people in Houston, Texas smell, and you people, and da-da-da-da-da. So, good on Sasha for not falling into that trap. After that, we had Nikki Cross and Alexa beat Mandy and Sonya, with Cross pinning Sonya with the neck breaker thingy. They have now beaten literally the whole division. In 3 weeks' time, they've beaten everyone in the four-way. They beat Asuka and Kairi. They beat the Iconics, and they beat the Fire and Desire. So, what is next for them? I don't know. They might have to make a new team. Cedric Alexander beats Sami Zayn cleanly to advance. No surprise. Cedric has a lot to possibly gain from this tournament. This match didn't really do much for me. Sami hasn't won a singles match since returning. That still remains. After that, we got another street narrators segment, the street marks, whatever you want to call them. They were upset because their bracket got busted. But after that, this is where things got interesting for me. Natalya has a backstage segment crying for sympathy. Once again, talking about her dad and losing to Becky and everything else, and the crowd whats her. Then Sasha comes in, beats her up, says, "Go to hell, Natty, and tell your daddy I said hi." Whew. Yeah, I don't like this, and, I'm sure some people are going to praise this as something cool and edgy. I think it's lazy. I think it's lazy writing and lazy creative to have Sasha just the unoriginal heel heats of someone mentioning someone that has died as being in hell, or in some other derogatory way. I'm just not a fan of it. It's just distasteful to me. It's just cheap heat, and it's not like I'm sensitive to it. Like, it's just that I don't draw with it, and I just think it's cheap, and it doesn't really do much for anyone going forward. It's just that one moment, and that's it. And, you can go back to the Eddie Guerrero thing with Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton. I just never like this sort of thing, and, that I'm just not a fan. We got Braun and Seth Rollins versus Gallows and Anderson for the titles. Seth gets worked over for a long time. Braun eventually gets the hot tag and runs wild, taking out everyone. gets the power slam on Anderson, but AJ tries to run in, but met with a stomp from Rollins. Braun gets the pin on Anderson. Seth and Braun are the tag team champions at the sacrifice of the tag team division. The tag team division, which is spread across two brands with two different titles, has no credible teams left after this. And, it's not like Gallows and Anderson were really that credible to begin with. They were hot-shotted into the tag team title reign, as I pointed out when they did win it a few weeks ago. And just, this was another nail in the coffin. And it was sacrificed simply for the benefit of Braun and Seth Rollins' storyline. And it's something that was unneeded for that storyline. It was something that they don't need to build their match. Whereas the tag team division, they kind of need titles. But, it's a lost cause at this point. The tag team division sacrificed once again. And you can go back to WrestleMania 2 years ago, to when there was a battle royal where the winner would face Sheamus and Cesaro for the tag team titles. And Braun Strowman entered this battle royal and won it solo, eliminating almost everyone. So you can go back to that, and then Braun Strowman wins the tag team titles with a 10-year-old child. And, that was... I'm not sure if you can say it was unrepairable damage, but it was certainly a lot of collateral damage to the tag team division and taking that division seriously. And this, while it's not a 10-year-old child winning a title, it dilutes the tag team division. I never like when a team that's not a team wins the titles. It just takes away from what the tag team division is and what it should be, and the art of tag team wrestling, and the credibility of the teams that are supposed to be, a cohesive unit. But, they get beaten by a team that is just thrown together. And in this case, it's not going to be used for anything but a pawn in the battle of Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins. And, it won't mean anything in the end. And, after this, I'm sure Seth and Braun will drop it one way or another, whether they relinquish it or otherwise, or one of them walks out on the other during a match. Either way, another thing is that Seth Rollins is now a 3-time dual champion. Starting in 2015, he won the United States and WWE title. In 2018, he won the Intercontinental title, and then won the tag team titles with Dean Ambrose before Ambrose turned on him. And now this one. So 3 times I feel like might be a record. But my big point here is that Seth Rollins has turned into Roman Reigns. And the reason I say that is because of the willingness that WWE had to sacrifice peace on earth, world peace, to help get Roman Reigns, moreover. They could have the cure to a disease, and they would sacrifice that for Roman Reigns. And, you go back to Roman Reigns' feud with Braun Strowman. When Braun Strowman cashed in the Money in the Bank, they turned Strowman heel when he was at, kind of the peak of his popularity, just to feed him to Roman. And, that match, that was the match that didn't even have a finish. It was the Hell in a Cell match that ended in a no contest. And, Seth Rollins, the same thing. You can go back to before WrestleMania, where WrestleMania 2 years ago, where Seth Rollins had that great gauntlet performance. Feed him to Roman. And, it's just, It was just like a never-ending cycle of anything we could do to help Roman, we're going to do it. And so now with Seth, we are sacrificing a whole division to Seth Rollins to help him be more over. And I don't know what it does for him to be more over other than having another championship. It's just going to lead to the eventual demise between Braun and Seth. I just never like this. Never care for it. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. These last 12 minutes actually got deleted unintentionally because of error with OBS. So the first 43 minutes were my original recording, and then whatever I had left, and it was probably longer than what I just did, got corrupted. So I had to redo it. I do want to mention that in that corruption, I forgot that I was trying to name all the teams that Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross beat, and I forgot the Iconics existed. So the world will never see that, but I'll let you in on that. It did happen, but the file got corrupted. Had to re-record. Always frustrating, but I've got to start remembering to have backup plans in place. But yeah, nonetheless, overall, I thought it was an enjoyable Raw show to watch. While I didn't agree with everything they did, there were talking points and stuff to discuss, and that's all I really ask for, is just to have some good talking points when I'm doing these shows, and just for the Raw shows to not be a bore like they were earlier this year. And so we're in the stage where Raw is watchable again. Things are pretty good. Things are heating up. We're getting into the October season soon, where everything's going to be crazy. But we'll be back here tomorrow for the SmackDown review. There's going to be 2 King of the Ring matches. There's going to be Daniel Bryan possibly revealing who the Roman Reigns culprit is. Will it be Daniel Bryan himself? Will he say, "It's me, it was me all along, Roman"? Or will he point the finger of blame at someone else? We will find out tomorrow, and I'll be there to review it and give everyone my unwanted opinion. But until then, thank you.